Everybody, hello, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning back in. I'm in Austria. Well, actually in the middle of a vineyard at the moment. It's just, in the UK we try to grow oranges and grapes and all that sort of stuff, and they always taste sour and horrible. There are just as many grapes here as you can, there's just tons of, so many of them. Line after line after line of them. It's incredible. And they taste really nice as well. I shouldn't, but I'm going to nip in and have one. Bunches and bunches and bunches of them. It's amazing. I'll have one. Seeded, but they're nice. So yeah, I'm here. I'm actually right on the very, very fringe of Austria. So if you look over there, I don't know if you can make out those wind turbines over there. Well, that there is Hungary. So this is, I'm literally on the very edge of Austria now. And then all the way over there, where you can see there, it actually looks far away, but it's not actually that far. It's probably a 15-minute walk. It's not that far, but that there is the Hungarian border, that side. Yeah, it's a beautiful part of town, this place. Yeah, just grapes as far as you can see everywhere. It's amazing here. Anyway, I'm gonna get some drone footage. We'll touch base in a second. I'm going to tell you a story, so get comfortable. Once upon a time there was a farmer who had a skinny cow, and it was the only cow he had. It was old, didn't give much milk, wasn't a lot of use to anybody, but the farmer kept it and looked after it because it was the only money that it earned him. Anyway, a friend came round one night, sat down with him and his wife and said, "Why do you keep that cow? It's of no use to anybody." And the farmer said, "Well, it's all I've got. That's the hand I've been dealt with. Those are the cards that I've been given. That's all I've got." Friend said, "All right, fair enough." Anyway, they get up the next morning, they go outside and the cow's dead and his friend's standing next to it with a gun. And the farmer says to him, "What the fuck are you playing at?" "That was all I had." And the friend said, "No, it wasn't. You thought it was all you had, but it's going to force you to go out now and do something differently." It's worth pondering on that story, I thought. Okay, so while I was out here in Hungary, I'm actually just on the other side of the border now, just walking through a cornfield as it happens. I thought this would be a good time to answer a couple of questions, because I get loads of questions which I keep meaning to answer and just never getting around to it. So here's the first one. Yes, the fixed radio thing is a permanent thing. That's going to be happening every Friday from 6 till 7. I will leave a link in the description about it and you can click on it and go and find out more, but that's happening every Friday, 6 p.m. till 7 p.m. There were a few people saying that's not a very convenient time for tradesmen to listen to, well, and there were a few other people saying, "I can't see that taking off the ground if you're only doing it from 6 to 7. Well, A, I've never done radio before, and B, they're not going to go and give you a lunchtime slot, are they? Think about it. They're going to give you the quietest slot, see how you get on. If it works, they push you up. They're not just going to give you the peak prime time slot, are they? So that's the first read. That was the first thing. Question 2, short courses. Loads. I answered this last week on fixed radio. I actually don't know if you can listen back to what I've said on fixed radio. I'll have to ask the producer, Graham Mack, to see if that's possible. If not, you'll just have to tune in, and I apologise. There's not a lot I can do about it, because I know a lot of you want to, like, when you come back from work, then you can listen to it. I will try to see if I can arrange that with him, so bear with me. Question 3, these short courses. I did answer that on fixed radio the other day. My stance on them is, just for anybody who's tuned in and wondering, these short courses are courses which basically are exactly that. They're short courses for people who want to get into the industry but don't want to spend 4 years in a college. Mostly because A, if you're going to be doing that, you're going to be an apprentice, in which case the pay sucks, and B, time. You can't hold down a 2 up, 2 down semi-detached house, a car on tick, mortgage payment, you can't hold all that down on an apprentice wage. So I see the appeal to these courses, but as with a lot of people, I can't say I'm a great lover of them, but I understand why they're there. And yes, I do think they have a place in the market. Yes, I'm not saying that they're great, but they do, to be fair, have a place in the market for people who are midway through their lives and they want to change career. I do get it. I wanted to change career only a couple of years back. It wasn't long ago. Sort of 5-6 years ago. I actually wanted to change, so I wanted to be a mechanic because I love mechanics. I love the nuts and bolts of how things work. Luckily, I didn't pursue it, but I was seriously contemplating it. And I was looking at, you know, quick courses and what I was doing the same. So I get people poo-poo them, but they do have a place, you know. I'm not saying they shouldn't be more regulated, because they should. That's one thing I disagree on. I think they should be regulated much more strongly, rather than just this huge promotion of just pushing them out in huge mass numbers. So yeah.
6 hours later.
Very good.
Was it Kevin tried to...
That reminds me. I think I might get that printed on a t-shirt actually, because a lot of people, have you noticed that in the comments, people are saying just the words, that reminds me, because it does. When I start talking to camera, I start remembering things that I've read in the comments, and one of them is a thing that I keep saying is, that reminds me. So I might make that my catch line or something, that reminds me. I am using a new Panasonic Tough book, because you know I was talking about electrical certificates and what a bore they are, because when you finish doing your testing on site and stuff, you just write it down on a bit of cardboard, which is how sort of 90% of people do it, and then you take it home, and it takes you 4 hours to create a certificate. So I'm now using a Panasonic Tough book, and it is, I'm not sponsored by them, all right? Apparently I've noticed that as soon as your voice has any sort of worth, apparently as soon as you mention a product, you're sponsored. I'm not, it's actually, as it happens, it's a second-hand one. But it is very good, Panasonic Tough book. I've tried it a little bit out in the field, it seems all right. 16 gig of RAM, terabyte SSD, Intel i7, seems pretty good. But we'll try it, we'll see how we get on. But that does remind me, moving on. In that latest video that I did, and there were people that were talking about, you know, when I moved this fuse board, that video is actually being split into a few different chapters, because it was it's quite a long job there we've got to do. But that fuse board, when I moved it, I left it up high because I had to, you're sort of on the second tread of a four tread step ladder to get to it. And a couple of people, the amount of people that bang on about this thing about putting fuse boards at 1400, I mean it's actually 1350 to 1450. Half these regs, they're honest, they're just nonsensical regs, and I don't know whether it's just stiff-ass Brits that follow them and nobody else does, or everybody else around the rest of the world just seems to take them with a pinch of salt, but Brits don't. We're like lemmings. We just follow these rules just without any thought about, you know, what could happen if we don't follow them. It's just a nonsense, you know. I mean, look at this, you know. How long's that Abbey been standing for? Do you think there's a fuse board in there that's 1400 off the deck? I guarantee there isn't. But do you see anybody running out screaming? Do you see fires? No. Everybody just gets on with it because no one gives a shit, you know? They're just these nonsensical regs that we seem to have that are just made by bureaucrats who've all got pens perfectly aligned in their front pocket, who just don't know how the real world works. You know, it's just a nonsense, man. But anyway, the point was, I left that fuse board up high, just going, I went off piste there, but just that fuse board was mounted up high because it was in a garage. But no one seems to notice that, even if it wasn't again, no one seems to care, you know? Because think about it, that fuse board was mounted up high. Now you could, for instance, just for argument's sake, you could mount it down low, and let's just say I'd put it at 1400. If you move a fuse board and we dropped it down between 1350 and 1450, like everyone's fucking dribbling on about, you could hop in your van and drive away. There's, you know, you've followed, well, I don't even know what part that is. These parts are just absolute nonsense, but I think it was part M, accessibility, I think it is. Part P is that's a waste of time, that's electrical. Part M I think is accessibility, or is it part, I can't remember. If you mount it down there in that garage and you hop in your van and drive away, that's okay. But the problem is you've put a fuse board at 1400 in a garage. Now where's the fucking sense in that? You know, okay, you followed a rule, but you've also just made it unsafe. You've not put any forward planning into your project, because I can guarantee exactly what will happen. You'll be, matey boy will open his garage door one night, he'll be pulling his car in, he'll have the radio on, he'll be arguing with his missus over something, and he won't be thinking, he'll hit the fuse board, rip it off the wall, it'll blow the 100 amp main fuse, and it'll probably take out the 400 amp cutout in the street, and it'll take out half the street with it. But what, you've complied with regs by putting it at 1400, it's just bollocks. It really is. I don't get this whole thing of following regs blindly, you know. The whole point of regs is you don't work to them, you work from them. You know, you take what you can from a reg and you follow them the best you can in the situation that you're in, you know. How many regulation deviations do you think are in Milk Abbey? But it's still standing, you know, it's still there, and it's still there in all of its glory, you know. And there's 66 Chinese tourists here, all with cameras, photos. It's still here. It's never going to go anywhere. You know, on paper they look good. On paper it's a very good rule, but in reality it just doesn't work. Because take new builds for example. It's a classic example. You put a fuse board. Let's say at 1400 or wherever it is, and they always religiously put them in the hallway. Where any new build you go into, they're either in a kitchen cupboard or they're in a hallway as you go in the front door, normally on the left-hand side near the toilet. That's just how they always do it. What's the first thing you do when a customer buys that house and they've moved into their new shiny home? They don't want to see, you know, they don't want to see a fuse board mounted, this big bulky fuse board that's like that. They don't want to see it in their new home. So the first thing they do, they get a carpenter and they put a great big cupboard over it. And what's the first thing you do when you get a cupboard? Put shelves in it and you fill it with shit. It's the first thing you do. So you end up having a cupboard and you open it and it's just full of 66 pairs of shoes and wellies and, you know, half a dozen torches with batteries that are all dead in them. But the end result is you can't get to the fuse board. I mean, I went into a new build the other day and they'd actually put it in the kitchen because when you think the countertop is 900 and it's got to be at 1400, so as it happens the fuse board actually sat inside the back of one of the kitchen cupboards. No, okay, it's at 1400, but I mean, you can't get to it. There's 66 tins of beans and shit in front of it. There's just no logic. I don't know. Half of these part regulations, part M, part P, they're bollocks. There's just, all you need on site is common sense. That's all you need. You don't need anything else. But yes, we're in Austria, so I've got a few different pieces of content coming up. I've got, hopefully, with any luck, I think we're going to go and see a friend, and I believe there's a new fuse board there because she's actually moved into a new flat, and I believe there's a new fuse board installation there, which I might, if I'm lucky, I might be able to get some footage of. I'm hoping so. So that's going to be coming up soon. And I think there's one or two other bits and pieces which I'm doing while I'm out here, so stay tuned for those. But otherwise, I hope you've enjoyed listening. So just a little Friday rant, and I'll see you on another video. Take care.